You're gonna want to hear this. The following is guaranteed to knock your ears right off.
And we're back. Hi, Matt.
Hello, Liam.
How's it going?
It's going well, man. How about you?
Hunky dory, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever you say.
So what are we talking about tonight, Matt?
We're gonna be talking about how the Nazis escaped and where they went.
Yep. What happened to them after World War II? Sound good?
Yeah.
Bree's gonna be late. Matt's leaving early. Joe's not here, and our friend Ivor's waiting outside until we let him in, which we will do.
I'll just go do it right now.
Which Matt will do right now. Nice job. Good job. Good one. Oh my god. So, for the audio listeners, which is just audio, Matt stood up and kicked the headphones by accident. And I don't even know how he does it. And he tripped, almost fell, and I don't even know where he's gone. So, we have an Instagram, lounging.around.podcast. Follow if you want to. We also are on YouTube now, so if you don't want to sit through all this, you can 100% listen to us on YouTube as well. It's the same show, just on a different place if you want to listen to us there. And Matt loves the YouTube show, right, Matt?
Every day, man.
Welcome back, Matt.
Thanks.
And welcome, Ivor.
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
Ivor, we're talking about, just so I think you already know already, we're talking about history of Nazis after World War II, where'd they go, what happened to them, all the fun facts, and all the fun things to inform people. But they were still out there. They just didn't disappear after World War II. They were still there. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Until then, we're gonna put some songs on. Fun songs. We're gonna put
Something nice.
I Want You by the Kings of Leon. Until then, we'll be right back. Enjoy. And we're back. Hi, Matt.
Hello, Liam.
Hi, Ivor.
Hello.
You guys ready?
No.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
Crack-a-lackin'.
Crack-a-lack and Coolio. This is gonna be baller. You excited? My home slice? What's up, my geyser? You ready for this? You're gonna want to hear this.
Get on with it.
So basically, the first topic we're gonna talk about is kind of go into a little bit of like Nazi ideology and kind of like their thoughts a little bit. Nothing like too crazy. Basically just kind of like weird stuff they did and kind of like where they all went and kind of like where they all went and stuff. So, have you guys seen like pictures of Nazis with like huge scars on their face? Like huge deep scars on their face and stuff?
No.
So,
Nope.
when they were kids or like adults in battle and stuff like that, majority, I think it was like teenagers and kids, they would cut their faces super deep and then pack like dirt and stuff into it so that it would heal as a scar, so like a deep scar and stuff, so that it looked like they were like kind of battle worn and all that. It's like a scare tactic, really, and they kind of showed that they were like tough and everything like that.
They did that as kids?
Yeah, they did that as kids.
What?
A lot of them did it as kids. A lot of them did it as adults. A lot of guys that are like high up in the military had like huge gashes across their face. Like there's plenty of pictures you can find of like Nazi officers with like their faces like basically like have huge deep cuts in their face. It's because they packed like dirt and stuff in there so that it would heal as a scar, not heal kind of like thin. That's why they want like the huge deep scars on their face and stuff, which I kind of find very interesting. And the mindset of it was kind of like to scare people and to like as like a way of like being like, I'm tough, I'm this and that, which is kind of fascinating a little bit too. Or some other stuff, like a lot of like people thought like all Germany was kind of in on the Holocaust and stuff like that. In reality, like no one really knew because Hitler kind of like shut down like public like newspapers and stuff like that, and he controlled like a lot of newspapers and stuff. So like a lot of information was going out of like these people going to camps were not leaving. So a lot of the German public had zero clue. Only like officers and people in the military knew what was going on, of course, because they had the camps and stuff. But like public opinion of Hitler was like, he's this great guy. Like he saved our economy. He built our military back up. Because the reasons that they liked the guy too is because after World War One, there was so many like stipulations on Germany that where they couldn't exceed a number of military soldiers in their army, or couldn't have any like had to pay a bunch of debts to fix all Europe and stuff like that. So like they had so many things on them, and then when Hitler came to power, he basically was like, we're not doing any of this stuff anymore. Ignore the rules. There was no precautions placed where if they did break the rules, there would be repercussions for it. So they were able to just do what they want, basically. And because of that, they were like, he's the best, blah, blah, blah. In reality, this guy was just a psychopath in a leadership position. So, yeah.
Insane.
It's kind of smart, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, controlling all the media outputs, you know? That
Yeah, man, you gotta be smart to like be Hitler, you know, and do what he did.
Maybe take some notes nowadays.
Oh, okay.
Okay, man. Yeah. Some other things. So that's kind of like a lot of like the mindset of Germany, and a lot of the mindset of like specifically soldiers and kids at the time, like that they thought that this was like one of the best nations in the world, and like they really didn't know a lot of stuff that was happening. So we're gonna go into now basically what happened to them after World War II. This is the fun part, the stuff I like. This is history that's not been told, that's been hidden. Can you believe that, Matt?
Yeah, all these.
Why you call them out like that?
All these people just hiding information out there. Huh?
And we're here to expose them on the lounging around.
Wow. Should I be scared for my life?
We do not. Come at us.
We don't know.
What are you gonna do about it, huh? What are you Nazis out there?
Assassinate us?
What do you? Yeah, you don't even know who I am, man.
Yeah, just try to take my gun away.
You don't even know who we are. You don't know who Matt Kiskin is.
We go to a college.
He doesn't go to college.
We
He
go to a
doesn't go
public
to Eastern.
university.
Yeah, true, guys.
He doesn't live at. I'm not gonna do that to you. His home address isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they don't actually come after me. You better hope. And try.
They're gonna interrogate you. Be like, "Where's Liam?" I'm like, I don't know. Okay, so a majority of people think a lot of Nazis fled to just South America. They did. A majority of them fled to South America, but also a huge majority fled to Egypt. A little bit of them, not as many. Like I think 1,500 to 2,000 high-ranking Nazis fled to South America. Not like foot soldiers, not these guys that like were guards. These are like the worst of the worst batches. Like these were scientists that experimented on people. These were like high-ranking officials, bodyguards of Hitler. Like these were like guys that were like big-named bad guys. Not one foot soldier got away. Like only high-ranking officials got away, and almost like 2,000 of them did. And they all kind of fled to South America for the majority of the part. A few fled to Egypt, which we'll go into a little bit later. But a few fled to South America, and a lot of people think a lot of people think they fled primarily to Argentina, which a few did, but primarily the first colony of like all Nazis was in Colonial Dignidad, which was in Chile, and it's in the mountains of Chile. And basically it was like the first established like Nazi colony in South America. The colony there what was I gonna say? The colony there, like there was like after a while was like the first colony, and a lot of the people there to this day, like you can go to South America and you'd probably think a lot of people speak like what am I thinking, Spanish or Portuguese, but in reality, like there's huge colonies of people that speak German, and people get so shocked by this fact and all that. Especially in Colonia Dignidad, there was a show called Finding Hitler, I'm pretty sure. It was called, and they went to Colonia Dignidad, and they were talking to the ancestors of these high-ranking Nazis, and one family put white gloves on and brought this box out to the guy, and they told him he can't touch it because he was colored, his skin was colored, but they said the cameraman of his can touch it because he was white, which is kind of crazy. But basically like no.
They got the wrong side of history still.
Yeah, no, they're a bunch of racists still down there. But basically they said that they couldn't touch it because they literally quote unquote said his skin was dirty, that he couldn't touch it because they didn't want to like taint their grandfather's materials. Basically, they opened the box and it had the stash, like you know how they had the armbands that had the Nazi symbol, had their war medals, like Nazi war medals, and like photos of their grandfather as a Nazi and all that, and they just seemed so happy talking to this guy about it, being like, he did good, he was great, he was a great man, he did great things. And they're like, you know, he was a Nazi, right? And they're like, yeah. And I don't, like, for me, it's like, I don't think as ancestors they really do understand a lot of what they did, like they're like, or their descendants really understand what their ancestors did. I think they hear about what those Nazis that came to South America told their kids and then their grandkids and stuff, which was kind of kept passed down generation to generation. And kind of like their story was, I think they were forced out of their country because of bad men, and they had to flee to South America and stuff. And I find that just like ridiculous. Like they just kind of switched the story to make them sound like the good guy.
Isn't that all of history?
Yeah, a lot of times people do that. A lot of groups of people do that a lot.
The people that win are the people that are in the right.
And they're the ones that make history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These are people that hide the history, man. But after Colonia Dignidad was formed, though, well, after they talked to the family, like they closed the box, they put it away and everything, and they finally went to other colonies. They found out there was like more than 100 to like thousands of different colonies all over South America, from Chile to Argentina to Bolivia to like a bunch of places, and they're all over kind of South America, and they are descendants of Nazis, which I find insane. There's 3 million of them alive today, from like 2000 basically to 3 million all around South America. I find that like number insanely high.
Have they done anything like to improve upon the Nazi ideal?
So the problem is like Chile and Argentina especially, like they're very corrupt governments there, and they try to crack down a little bit on the ideology, but it's kind of like a thing of like freedom to do what they want. Like they have like Nazi flags flying in their towns and stuff like that, and they have like it's basically like a tourist attraction now for people, where it's like German structures. Like you go like one town is like, you go to Chile and it's like all Chile decor, like the structures like from Chile and all this, and then you go to Germany and it's like animal pelt from Germany, like stuffed animals from Germany, like taxidermy animals and stuff, and like these structures that were all German structures and stuff, and they kind of use it now as like kind of a tourist attraction, which kind of sucks. Because I think people don't realize it too, kind of like what that place really was. And I think it's kind of a lot of times there's a lot of ignorance with those kind of places, and they try to crack down a little bit on them. Like, they've arrested plenty of the high-ranking Nazis that fled there, but they still had families and stuff like that when they got there, so they can't arrest their they can't arrest their descendants for.
There's like a statute of limitations.
Yeah, because they can't arrest them for something they never did, and
I'd argue that goes back to like any relative of Hitler that did absolutely nothing.
yeah,
I'm not a fan of like how like if Hitler was the one that did most of
Mhm.
it or all of like the
Mhm.
atrocities, why should for example like were his parents involved in any
no,
of it?
I don't think so. No,
Then I don't think the parents themselves should even be like criticized for it.
yeah, no, it always goes back to kind of like. People can say like you raised your son wrong. It's like,
All right, that's not really.
No, I know. I'm
It's like,
saying,
not really on them.
I know, but like it's not even on them. It's kind of like on the fact of this crazy guy somehow got all the way up there, and he hated the people, like the Jews, for literally like for no reason other than like for stupid reasons. Like his artwork, I think the real reason. There's a fake reason which I find ridiculous, but the real reason is I think his art. He was an artist, trying to be an artist and stuff, and he was okay artist for the most part. But I think someone that was Jewish, basically, that was an art critic, basically told him that they didn't like his art and that he's not gonna be successful, and kind of ruined his dreams, which then caused him to like hate that group of people, which I find ridiculous.
He needs to watch 21 Jump Street.
Yeah. But they've tried, I think, in South America, but there's 3 million people now down there, so they can't just like kick them out. And like a lot of the descendants talk about Germany and how they miss it and they want to go back, but they said that they can't. They can never go back because of kind of like how Germany's structured nowadays and how it's not as powerful or pure as it once was, which I find like crazy for them to say, 'cause it's like they've never been there. But it's like, imagine like missing home for like 70 plus years and then like having to like hear stories about the place like your grandfather was from and being like, oh, I wish I could be there. It's kind of like what happened. It's like these people missing home over like decades of just being in one place, and they want to go back, but at the same time they don't want to. But it's like, I don't think people want them back there.
No.
Nobody wants any of them back. I'm gonna be honest.
No. And the whole thing is just very interesting, like kind of how many of them got there, like who got there specifically. A guy we're going to talk about later, Joseph Mengele, was one high-ranking Nazi, a scientist that escaped there, and we're going to talk about kind of like a lot of things he did during World War II and what he kind of did in Argentina a bit. But yeah, any questions though?
No.
I don't think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a little break. When we get back, we're gonna talk about Egypt and kind of where they went in Egypt. Sound good?
Yeah, what they did at Egypt.
What they did in Egypt, and then we're gonna go. And after that, we'll go back to South America with Joseph Mengele. Sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Until then, what kind of songs are you guys feeling?
Feeling some like Joji. You got any Joji in there?
I do actually.
Yeah.
Matt loves Joji.
Joji's gas, bro.
Yeah.
You know I met him? You know I met Joji?
Did you actually?
No.
Oh.
I remember
I
him
feel like
telling
you
that.
told me that
He
before.
told Cole.
I told
think.
Cole and
Yeah,
I
Cole
trolled
was
him.
Cole.
Yeah, you told me because you went to his studio and stuff. Like you made a whole fake story. Yeah.
It was great. Cole ate it up.
I know, because Cole's the most gullible guy I know. Until then, we're going to take a little break, come back and talk about a little bit more history and more fun stuff like that. Until then, please enjoy Sanctuary by Joji. And we're back with Ivor. Matt's going to be right back.
Hello.
Matt's going to be right back after these short messages. Ivor, tell me.
What's up?
How are you?
Physically or mentally?
Oh, God. This is a two-parter, I guess.
Physically, I'm getting better. I was sick, and then I worked out, so now I'm chilling.
Mhm.
Mentally, I am very, very, very happy, even though I'm very stressed. But I don't have a lot of homework. So I'm a lot less, like, tense, if that makes sense. Thank you for asking. How about you?
I'm hunky-dory swell. We have a special guest joining us on the show, Quinn.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Quinn.
He had to come if you think about it.
Hi,
boys.
hi, Quinn.
How we doing?
How are you doing?
Pretty good, Liam. How we doing?
I'm good. Do you know what we're talking about?
I do not.
We're
Graffiti.
talking about no.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Get to it, Liam.
no. We're talking about the history of Nazis after World War II.
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
What do you think of those guys?
I don't really know too much about them. I just know they're not very good people.
And that's why we want you on here. We're gonna. So basically, I'll kind of catch you up a little bit. We talked about
Bet.
kind of like what Nazis did to their faces a little bit, how they cut their faces and forced scars on their faces.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then we talked about colonies in South America.
South America.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
It's a cool place.
I think he's taking like 2 words out of each sentence you're saying.
and we're talking about how high-ranking officers basically fled to South America, and basically how their descendants nowadays are praising them as heroes. In reality, they're really not heroes. That's basically what we
Bad
talked
people.
about. Yeah, bad guys.
Bad guy.
That's what we talked about.
Okay.
Now we're gonna go into them fleeing to Egypt. Only a handful fleeing to Egypt.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Do you know much about Egypt?
I know Egypt.
Yeah, that's good.
I know a little bit about
How many pyramids are in Egypt?
There's a good amount of pyramids in Egypt, I'd say.
If you had an estimate guess, I'll say it's only on one hand amount of fingers.
How many pyramids there are?
Yeah,
4?
Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had to.
Yeah.
All right, going into it. We're talking about one high-ranking Nazi official. His name was Skorzeny. Skorzeny basically funded the Egyptian rocketeer program in Egypt. What? Yeah.
He's not doing anything. Chill.
Basically, Skorzeny basically funded the rocket program in Egypt, and the reason he did that was because he thought that he was funding actually the Fourth Reich in Egypt. He was kind of, what are you doing, man?
There we go.
you might comfortable?
We got it.
All right, that's good. Basically, he thought he was funding the Fourth Reich in Egypt. What, Matt?
No, I was just trying to absorb the information. Just give me a sec.
He was trying to basically fund the Fourth Reich in Egypt, and because the government there, which was being helped by the British government too, was trying to actually catch all the Nazis in Egypt. So they basically tricked this guy.
It was a trap.
Yeah, they exactly.
I see.
Yeah, so they basically what he thought was going to happen was he was going to build these rockets and missiles and kind of launch them at Israel. Which
Israel.
do you know which Israel? Why they were going to launch at Israel?
I do not.
Yeah, bunch of losers over there.
No,
Right?
it's because a huge portion of the Jewish population lives in Israel. A lot of that, so he wanted to launch missiles over from Egypt over to Israel and basically start another kind of World War III from there. He was very close into actually accomplishing this until they caught him. Until they caught him and his groupies on like a convoy, and they got rid of all his missiles, shut the program down, and basically and basically
dethroned him.
kind of. Yeah, I think he fled again. I don't know exactly. I couldn't find exactly what happened to him again, but basically from what I remember is that he fled Egypt, and I think he went to South America afterwards as well, or I think he got captured. A lot of the Nazis during World War II were captured and brought to these trials, and these trials were kind of like not really about incriminating them. They did incriminate them, but it was kind of like thing of like trying to push the agenda of putting Nazis in the past and trying to move forward to start a war, or start the Cold War against Russia. That was kind of America's plan.
Yeah.
I see.
America.
Nice, Matt.
When you're on your last legs and you're begging for America to come save you, we'll all know the day that you just say,
So I have
all
a
right.
question while we're talking
What?
about America coming to save people.
Sure.
How do we feel about America helping other countries that are like in need, such as like considering that we don't really help ourselves with a lot of our problems?
Such as the Middle East.
Yeah,
Good-
like
that's a good question.
thank you, man. Yeah, like there's like
That's Matt's philosophy question now.
well, no, I'm just wondering because like there's so many problems in America considering like homelessness and
Mhm.
stuff like that, and like
No, you're right.
what's wrong, man?
No, he's right.
Dude,
Yeah. Middle part.
do you think unemployment's a problem right now?
I don't know. Do you have a job?
No,
What
he
is that
doesn't.
You wish.
Yo.
So no, continue your question. Continue your question though.
No, I was just like wondering, like,
What's our opinion on
Should
America?
America help outside?
should America assist other countries that are in need?
It's kind of a big question.
So what is your
Gas
opinion?
question.
What's your opinion though?
I think it kind of depends on the country, honestly,
Mhm.
like, and what we get in return for it. Because I think like there's like certain countries, if you have like,
So
'cause I
give me an example in your eyes of a country that
would
needs
deserve
our help and doesn't need our help. Basically,
Okay.
this is the
I don't
philosophy
know.
question of the week. So
I don't know really. I mean, like,
I can help him out.
I think
No,
it
let him
depends
answer
on
it.
what's like what they've done in return for us in the past. Like, I think America is too like generous in a sense because it's like we have
Mhm.
so many problems, and it's just like we instantly will be there to help others, but like
Mhm.
not help our own country. I can't really think of like
no, I think I understand what you're saying. Like, kind of like why are we helping all these places when we can't really help
Yeah.
ourselves? Really,
yeah,
like why are we letting like the homeless crisis kind of build up
and
and
like
also like I think that there's certain things we should do. Like I'll give an example. Like Africa. Like I think Africa has a huge problem with like clean water and like
Yeah.
food and all that, like and clean food. And I think that they need a support of not military help, but a kind of financial help and a kind of a cleaning help,
yeah,
because they literally the water they drink from, they use for their bathrooms, their trash and everything like that, and they don't really like. There's no like system to clean it. Bill Gates actually is working with this guy from Africa who is also a scientist, trying to figure out a solution to make toilets for Africa that doesn't require like a plumbing and a huge infrastructure change, which requires, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it was, how it was going to work, but basically the toilet was not going to really rely on plumbing and electricity and all that to work, but rely on a sort of system where it would take the stuff and dump into a spot where it's not going to be contaminating the water anymore. Yeah, I think there's a difference of like, I don't think we should military help anymore places, because I think we've had a huge long presence in the Middle East for a little too long, and I think that we should definitely back out, because I think that needs to be their own thing and need to actually help countries that actually need help. And
I
not,
agree. But then also like
mm-hmm.
like I remember when they did back out, how the whole country just kind of like
Yeah.
was taken over. So it's
Yeah.
like
It's kind of a situation, especially in the Middle East, of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, kind of thing like
No.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'd say it's probably better for us to be in these kind of foregone countries.
Mhm.
First off, for morale for people, right?
Mhm.
People usually know America as strong, strong and independent nation.
Yep.
That, if you see it backing away, or
Mhm.
if I'm like, where my country going, right? It's not about really the resource management as much as just to keep everyone on board with America's units that they send out. And like, why wouldn't you just want to like help other nations that you can get resources for eventually? Like, I think Africa also found like a new oil reserve somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think Africa has like a lot of potential for many, many, many different resources. That's why colonialism was a big deal back in the day. Because what is that ringing? Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He didn't say anything. He's just waiting.
To give context, if you hear the ringing, Quinn has diabetes.
Yeah, I do.
And
How dare you?
the ringing is that I didn't realize that. I thought it came over to my left. But you're to my right. Anyways,
What do you war think? Yeah.
yeah.
That's facts, Kiskin. Had to.
I have a very conflicted opinion on this.
Mhm.
So for one, I am a big fan of nations helping each other out. I think even though we're all separated countries and we have our own, like societies, I think we are all
Quad.
under one earth and we should all help each other when we can, right? Think about like countries like, like Japan,
Mhm.
where, like they kind of have to get a good chunk of their shit like imported.
Mhm.
I feel like we have developed enough where like we can all benefit from helping each other out. I do think that America does maybe butt in a little too much.
Mhm.
And like Kiskin said, it might be for morale, but like what morale are you kind of setting when you do that, where it's like, oh, America's the only savior country. Like if you have an issue in your own country, you can't help it yourself. Like you need America to come and save you. I think, and I completely agree with Quinn, because it's like in the same issue where it's like, oh, Africa has no running water, right?
Mhm.
Bro, Flint, Michigan still has that ass water. And I'm like, sorry. And I'm like, why can we like you said, why can we work on fixing our water first before thinking about fixing someone else?
Yeah.
And then also, but then also at the same time,
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that we only help nations just to gain something for ourselves. But then
Yeah.
again, like I think it's kind of impossible to be selfless when it comes to politics, because like you kind of have to gain something, otherwise it's going to be a waste of resources.
I think it's important to help nations that need our help. I think people I think a lot of people are ignorant to a lot of the issues of the world a lot of time and don't actually do the research and only just kind of look at things at face value and stuff. Like like with the Middle East, like there's a lot of places that need our help in the Middle East, but at the same time it's like they have their own governments and stuff like that can handle our stuff. Like we have issues of our own in America, but we don't ask for other countries to come in and fix our problems too. So it's a thing of just like kind of establishing boundaries, I guess, between places, but also realizing that there are places in the world that legitimately need help, not in a militaristic way, but in like a solution to crises of their own, of like water and food and shelter and stuff.
The reason why no one helps the U.S. because the U.S. is the super nation. It's not like.
Well, you can argue that
Yeah,
China's a
it's
super.
really
You can argue that China's a super nation, Japan and Russia's a super nation too. But it's like
Japan and Russia.
Japan's a super nation?
I would say so. Yeah, 100%.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would.
That's
I would.
not- that's
I
not
would
bad,
100% say so.
How?
Really?
Peru.
No.
Bro,
As a fellow Peruvian, bro, Peru is in shambles right now. They're on life alert, man.
Japan owns a major car company. Actually, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
Is it
But
Mitsubishi?
from what
Nissan Versa.
from what I understand, like for me, it's like superiorities in like different capacities. Like I think Japan's a very superior country with technology and industry, with like especially with cars and all that stuff, and like same thing with China with technology, mostly with phones and tech that we kind of use every day, and same thing with like materialistic items. We have like a phone case, not just a phone, but a phone case of like saying made in China, stuff like that. So, and like
China, not Japan.
yeah, China. I'm talking about. I said something earlier about Japan, about like having the car companies there and like having the major kind of export of like car manufacturing, stuff like that. And I could be wrong. I can't remember exactly. If Joe was here, he would probably correct me if I was wrong. But there's a lot of places, in my opinion, that are superpowers in their own ways, and I don't think that America is like the ultimate superpower, because we're great in a lot of capacities, not everything. Same thing with Russia, same with Japan, same with China. They're great in a lot of things, but not in many others. So it's like, but there's some places that are just not great in anything really, and that kind of sucks. And that's kind of like why they kind of should get our help and everything. So yeah,
That's interesting, honestly. So then why don't we all just become one big country and just stop the
Pangea.
stop the
Yeah,
wars?
that's crazy.
Well, if you want to get into geography real quick, the continents are coming back together. It's going to take like a few 100,000 years, but the continents are actually coming back together.
So we won't see it, is what you're saying.
No, we would all be gone by then. I think as humans as a whole will be gone in general by the time like the continents come back together. So
Nah. What are you gonna do about it?
yeah, well, because I think like two things, like the moon moves like a fingernail length a year away from the Earth. And the same thing with the continents, of like how same thing with the continents, where I think it's like each year, I think like something like that is the same kind of distance that they come back together. I could be wrong, but you know, I can't remember really.
Yeah. Yeah, you go. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of mountains kind of growing in the ocean too. That's why you kind of see a lot of mountains kind of growing upwards more in the ocean, because the continents are kind of pushing back together in certain spots. So eventually we'll have different mountain ranges, and soon like mountain ranges we have now will kind of dissipate too in certain areas, because a lot of the things, our lands are pushing together and going up, and a lot of places are kind of like flattening out. That's why there's like a bunch of stuff like that. It's kind of crazy, but it's kind of what happened. The same thing with when it was Pangea, kind of like separated out, and that's why there's like the Appalachian Mountains in India and stuff like that, because the lands came together and collided and grew giant mountains and stuff. But anyways, we are very off topic. Anything else though? What we said?
That's about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good question,
it's
Quinn.
It's kind of like growing your business, right?
Okay.
You want to?
No, it has nothing to
Hey,
do with business.
Come on,
You're making no sense.
dude.
You're done. You're done.
It's like, as the leader of my business.
Okay.
Right, I wanna
Anyways,
giving
we're going a little
assets to my
break, and when we
employees.
get back,
But
we'll talk
they-
about
if they're not gonna give
some
me
high-ranking
assets,
officials,
Let's play League.
and that actually went to South America. Well, most people were specifically one. Thank you, Matt, for being quiet now.
Kind of hype.
Until then, please enjoy some more songs. We'll be right back.
Okay.
And we're back. Hello.
Hi, Liam.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Matt.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Hi, Quinn.
How we doing?
Good.
That's what's up.
Ivor left. He was falling asleep. He was tired. Bree should be coming still, but I'm not sure what's happening with that still. We have Cole on though.
What's up? What's up?
To fill in the spot.
Cole.
It's kind of like we're kind of going ring around the rosy here, kind of cycling through new people.
Yeah.
Or duck goose. I'm not really sure what I should say, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, so specifically, we're gonna talk about a specific Nazi officer, kind of like the things he did during World War II, and kind of like what kind of happened to him after World War II, and kind of like how he died as well. His name was Joseph Mengele. His nickname was the Angel of Death.
Angel of Death.
Angel of Death.
That's hot.
A few people have gotten that nickname over the years. I've heard that before.
I feel like I've heard that name before.
Yeah, I've heard that. I forget where I heard that.
I think I heard
That's
that in
like,
Marvel.
Yeah, yeah, Matt. You got
not
it.
Marvel.
Ding, ding, ding. Give this guy a sticker. You're looking it up now?
If Joe's not here, someone's got to do it.
Oh, you're trying. There's a character called Death in
Hold on.
Marvel.
Yo.
All right,
Keep
man.
going.
Okay. Basically, we're gonna talk about a little bit what he did during World War II to people that he had imprisoned. Do you guys know a lot of the different experiments they did to people?
I do not.
I actually am familiar with quite a bit of this stuff. I was a bit of a World War II history buff in high school.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see where you go with this, actually.
So do you know how we have different color eyes?
I do.
What color are your eyes?
My eyes are brown.
See, now Joseph does not like brown eyes. So you know what he would do to people to see if he could
Experiment
change
on them to see if he could change their eye color.
Exactly. So what he would exactly do was he would take a needle with ink. So he would take like blue ink or whatever kind of ink, any kind of color, and put it in your eye where the color in your eye is, and he would inject ink into your eyeball to see if your eye would change color.
Did it work?
No, because a lot of people went blind
Okay.
to that. Because of that. Because the thing was too, he would put it. Sometimes he'd put it in the pupil. And have you ever seen people get like tattoos on their eyes?
Oh, they
Not on their
look
eyes.
gnarly, bro. They really do.
Have you ever seen someone get a
I haven't
tattoo?
seen on their eyes, but
So some people get like tattoos on their eyes where all the white and color on their eyes is just black. So they have like one solid black eye. It's the same thing with both. They would do on both sides. It's extremely painful.
Like imagine the the popular fictional representations of like aliens with their full black eye. That's what it looks like on some people.
Yeah.
Those tats.
Exactly what it looks like. Yeah, so people would get that. And the problem with that is you got to be super careful because if you mess up, it can get in your pupil and basically cause you to be permanently blind. Kind of the same thing happened with a lot of people like that because he was also injecting like pen ink in their eyes. It's not like tattoo ink. So he was like kind of like taking like a blue pen and kind of like messing with their eyes with that. And
probably very painful.
what?
It's probably very painful, I'd say.
It sounds like a harmful experience.
Yeah, there you go.
Dude, it's like a lobotomy basically.
Except with the whole lobotomy.
Yeah, except with that part.
But he would do that with the eye a lot of time, and he was so fascinated with eyes and eye color and just kind of like the person's anatomy. He would do other experiments with twins. He would like put two different twins in two different rooms, and he would basically like beat the other twin in the room to see if the other one would feel the pain. And he'd keep going back and forth until eventually, like, he realized that, like, they can't feel it. So then he would just be, like, gone. And then they'd be gone, basically. He would only want, with pregnant people in camps, if they had, like, triplets. This guy was a horrible dude. And this is why he got the Angel of Death. Like, horrible things he would do. He had triplets. He would take the twins for experiments and then throw the third one into a fire.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So wasteful.
What?
What do you mean by that? Like, explain your statement.
It's just a waste of human life to do that to someone. Right?
That's true.
Yeah, Matt.
It's so wasteful.
Basically, you do that to triplets, which is like literally like one of the worst thing I had to like read about because I did a lot of research on this stuff, and it was like That was like the worst thing I read about. Just basically, he would do that to. He did a lot of awful things. So many awful things. He would do like shock therapy on people, and like a bunch of things. Like,
Was he a Nazi?
yeah,
That is horrible.
Bro, just realized.
Bro's not been here the entire time, basically. But basically, he would do a bunch of experiments on people and everything, and they were terrible. And that's why he had the name Dr. Death, because so many people died during his experiments. And he was a doctor and a scientist and stuff like that during World War II. And like, you know how we like use like kind of like monkeys as like kind of experiments because they're so close to the human genome.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would kind of do the same thing to kind of learn about more about the human body, so like different drugs and see how they would affect people too and stuff. Like he did like so many things, and like because of that too, like all the experience he did, people like a lot of like the U.S. is like experiments stuff like that. Kind of followed what he did with like certain things, not everything, but kind of certain things with monkeys and stuff. And they wouldn't like try to harm him as much as like he would do, but like they would kind of try to do the same things to kind of see how it worked. But because of them, they helped kind of broaden the knowledge of like kind of like the human capability, which is should not have been handled in the way he handled it, but because of that, it kind of expanded our knowledge of what the human body can do. So
I have a question.
yeah.
So do you think that in America
Mm-hmm.
there are certain like higher ups that like experiment on people and we don't know about it? Is it like
How would anyone know if we don't know about it?
I'm just wondering, man.
Talking about like area.
I'm actually asking
talking about, like,
questions, Kiskin.
Talking about like area.
Being involved in the conversation,
talking about, like,
some might say.
Talking
I
about
was
area.
asking about eugenics in the United States.
Talking
just
about,
wondering.
I don't care what kind of PhD you have. If you can't physically beat me down, I'm not listening to you. Right?
Sure. To answer your question, basically, to answer your question about so that I definitely do think it's happening. I just don't think we'll ever kind of know. It's very secretive and stuff. I don't know how they would do it without getting caught at the same time. It's like a lot of people
stuff all the time.
Yeah, but a lot of people think like Area 51, for example, is kind of like places like that, where it's not just aliens, but also like they take people that are missing and bring them there and do experiments on them and stuff. It's like there's a lot of like different conspiracy theories about that kind of stuff.
Well, they have done it in the past. If you want to know that,
What?
They had like a mind control experiment. I forget what it's called. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. It's like something, like MK something.
Oh, MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, yeah.
Yeah.
Project MK Ultra. They did that in the past, which probably is close to human experimentation.
Yeah, there's a lot of different types of human experiment. Like there was scientists wanted to know kind of what would happen to a child if it never kind of was like touched by its mother, basically, and everything like that. It kind of like was fed and everything like and was like still nourished and stuff, but they wanted to test it, but they couldn't test it because it's like kind of against human
it's against human rights.
But actually a mother, and I can't remember what state it was in, but a mother basically had their daughter forced in this chair for her entire life. She never walked, she never did anything, she never moved. She was stuck in this room in like almost total darkness, but not really, and she never was touched. They never talked to her, so that she never learned what speech was. She never was able to move, so she never learned how to walk.
It's like that Metallica song, man. One. Yeah.
Yo, that's
plan.
real close.
I don't think so.
No, it is, bro. That's what that song's about. But anyways.
But basically, they finally found kind of like cops kind of had a warrant and searched the house because they heard something was wrong in the house, and they found the girl in there. And basically, what happened was she she literally couldn't speak English, and she couldn't walk. She didn't know what voices sound like or anything like that. So she because the room was like padded too, it was like soundproof, so she really couldn't hear anything too that was coming out. So what happened was psychologists took her, and they wanted to kind of like learn if they could help fix her condition almost, and so all that stuff. She was able to learn how to walk. She was like 9. She finally was able to learn how to walk at 9 years old. She learned a few words, but her mind was so underdeveloped because of all the trauma she went through, not having human contact and not having people talk to her and stuff like that her brain was stuck, and it literally couldn't grow anymore.
Let me just butt in on that. I don't think it's necessarily that her brain was underdeveloped. I think she missed out on the perfect period of neuroplasticity, which was and is below the age of 9 years old. So if you don't go through a daily and sort of normal lifestyle, your brain does not fully form because of outside effects. It's not literally that it didn't form. It's just that she missed out on that part of
So it didn't develop fully.
She missed
from
out on
outside sources.
on optimal learning
Yeah.
time.
That essentially means that like when she was just sitting there doing nothing, like she had no thoughts and she had nothing. Like she was just like there was just nothing happening.
I wouldn't. Not
I
necessarily.
think she had thoughts.
I know,
just,
but like, okay,
I just
but
don't.
She doesn't speak.
So
Oh yeah, do blind people?
that is a good question. It's like,
Well, let me just
Exactly, that's a
butt
good
in
question,
real quick.
Jason.
The reason I mentioned the neuroplasticity thing is like why it's easier to teach a child a new language than it is to teach an adult a new language. Like that's just a crude example.
well, that's why it was that part of the brain was underdeveloped. So I didn't mean like the brain didn't have that parts in the brain weren't there. They were there, but they weren't as developed as other parts of the brain were. Like, so the ability to like learn language and all that stuff was more underdeveloped than other parts of the brain. And she was able to somewhat develop that part of the brain, able to get it to function a little bit better. But there was a point where it was so that she missed that window, like you're talking about, that she literally couldn't anymore. And eventually she passed away, like around like I think in her 20s or 30s. And she
Why? Just because like
yeah, because her health was really poor and everything. It was because of a lot of the things that happened to her too. Her kind of like, you know, it was an awful thing that happened to a child. But she basically kind of was stuck with the mind of a 9-year-old for her entire life after the fact, or even younger than that. But going back real quick to what we were talking about, Joseph, after all those things, escaped and went to South America, and basically in Argentina he set up a mechanical equipment shop where he basically kind of lived out almost like the rest of his days. But he also was kind of like the town doctor as well, which is kind of crazy because especially after all the experience he did, all that stuff. I think, I can't remember it correctly or not, but I think he was still somewhat doing the experiments and stuff in his shop, but not as many or not as frequent. But they would like kind of like steal people and bring them to the shop to do the experiments. But eventually, the CIA found him. They were hunting him. They're called Nazi hunters, I'm pretty sure. And they were hunting him, and eventually, he was trying to swim away from them and had a stroke during his swim and passed away in the water, which, no offense, well deserved. But I think he died in his like 70s or 80s almost. I think he was like 71. I'm pretty sure, something like that.
So Liam, let me ask you this. Regarding Nazi conspiracy theories, how much do you believe and or not believe in the whole Argentina theory?
What Argentina theory?
Or the Argentina/South America theories regarding them fleeing there.
Oh, that's not a theory. That's actually fact of them actually being in Argentina. Like, there's a colony called Colonio. We literally talked about it earlier. I don't think you were here for it, but there was a called Colonio
Yeah.
Colonial Dignidad, and it's literally a town in Chile in the mountains where there's Nazi flags, Nazi medals, Nazi sashes from people's grandfathers that were high-ranking officials and stuff, Nazi medals, and it's literally a real thing of these people actually going there. There's 3 million Germans now in all of South America that were descendants of Nazis, and they're all around South America and still there and support what their grandfathers did. So that's actually true. All that's really very true.
For whatever reason, I always thought that was like some sort of conspiracy type thing.
The conspiracy theory I think you're thinking about is Hitler going to South America and Argentina.
No, I meant Nazis. I meant the Nazis.
No, they're there. Like, you can literally go to Chile and go to Colonial Dignidad. It's a whole tourist attraction for people, and it's like for people to like walk around and stuff like that. But they are legitimately Nazis there. And I talked about a whole story earlier about this guy getting shown all these medals and stuff and everything by Matt. Matt has to go. He has classes tomorrow. Yeah. He's got to study and do essays. Good night, Matt. But he basically couldn't touch the medals and stuff like that because his skin was darker and he wasn't white. So they said that his skin.
Who's he?
It was a guy that runs the show. I can't remember his name, but he runs a show called Finding Hitler, and I can't remember his name now. But basically, he couldn't touch their stuff because his skin was tainted. They said his skin would like taint their grandfather's memory and medals and stuff.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a little bit off topic, but it's still on Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen things like posted on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like former Nazis, or I think that are like still alive.
Mm-hmm.
They get convicted like in their 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
Like extremely old. Like, what do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's deserved. Yeah, because
it kind of makes you think though, like, why didn't it happen like sooner? Or, like,
well, we'll actually go into that later too about why all that stuff didn't happen. Because there's a whole like theory as to why then all this stuff. But like, yeah, a lot of them are nowadays doing it because especially because they committed war crimes, so that doesn't have like there's no limitation on that. As in like other things, like there's limitations, but like with war crimes and like mass genocide stuff, like you could still get convicted. They find it's like same thing with like serial killers, like with Zodiac Killer and stuff. Like if they found him, they could still convict him because of certain things. So
so can I ask you, maybe
Mm-hmm.
coming from your history buff background,
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think the blame of World War I, aka the Treaty of Versailles, had on future ramifications of the starting of World War II and the rise of Hitler and the power vacuum that caused for him to get into power?
It was the biggest reason for all that.
100%.
Yeah, because because of the desperation of something new, I think, and the desperation of trying to get back to a stable economy, because they basically like the treaty basically took away their military strength to nothing, made them pay all these debts even though they didn't start the war, basically because of France and Britain hated Germany during that time, that they basically want to put so many sanctions and so many things on Germany to make them pay.
It crippled the country as a result.
Yeah, there's a whole reason why France and Germany really, really hate each other, and that goes all the way back to like when Germany was called Prussia, and it's like a whole, it's a whole thing, and it's a whole different story, involving like diplomats and stuff. But I'm not really gonna go into that right now. But they really just didn't like each other, so they put a lot of those sanctions on them where basically like prevented them from doing anything. So then when Hitler came to power, he took away all those sanctions because there was no safeguards to protect the sanctions they put on them. So he was able to just kind of be like, I'm gonna do what I want. and he literally did what he wanted, and basically kind of fooled the world for a long time that he was this innocent guy and stuff.
Yep.
And eventually they caught on, but
I mean, I think he came into power because that was the example of a fallen / broken country.
yeah,
And a people that wanted hope.
yeah,
And wanted help in any way. And he was that guy. Like,
yeah.
he wasn't like Jesus per se, but like he was for them, he was the saving grace because he was in their idea at least pulling the country out of like this gutter.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And I think that because of all these factors of the Treaty of Versailles and the fact of like they wanted a different change and all these things, like when he came up and said that he was going to bring it back to what it once was, and he's not going to listen to these countries and stuff. It was just like people wanted a stable economy where they didn't feel like the next day they're going to lose their house or lose their job because of certain things. So naturally, people followed, not knowing him fully as what he had the potential to become. And yeah, I think that's kind of like what happened, you know.
Nice, man.
So
Yeah.
Cool, bro.
Yeah. Anyways, though, Joseph Mengele, whatever. He was a very big Nazi during the war, and because of a lot of the things he did, I'm trying to think of the words I'm going to say. He basically did a lot of horrible things, and because of him, a lot of people died for experiments that should not have happened to be innocent people.
The Nazi eugenics, man.
I feel like there's also, I mean, I don't know if it's kind of similar. Like, I mean, it's not really similar, but it is in a sense. Like, I know I was actually just looking at something today, and like there's certain, I mean, it's like different because it's animals and we're humans, but there's animals that are killed because they think there's like an effect that a part of their body will have to like help cure stuff, and there's just no scientific evidence that like it actually does anything.
Well, prime example of that is sharks. Sharks actually have immunity to cancer, and people have been like killing sharks and trying to find sharks because their blood is naturally immune to like all kind of cancers, and because of that, like a lot of sharks have died for those reasons, and a lot of animals like that always get killed for like these phenomenons that they think.
Yeah, like elephants, like
Yeah.
their tusks, and rhinos for their horns.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
well, that's because of like poaching and marketing stuff for like
Yeah.
their ivory, and I don't know. I other examples like horseshoe crabs. Their blood is actually very important for like different types of medicines and stuff, and I'm trying to think what else. But like
snake venoms, you know.
Yeah, snake venom
venoms
too.
are always used for like anti.
Yeah, but they take care of the snakes too because they need them alive for that.
Well, yes, yeah, of course.
But I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like animals like just kind of like.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of animals out there like bees. Like, you know how many bees die a year to grow a field of almonds and oranges in California?
I do not.
Bees die.
1 billion bees a year die to grow almonds in California.
So how do they die? From the pesticides or
So-
the chemicals put on the plant?
I think so. Something like that. I have to look more into it, but I know that at least like 1 billion bees die a year, and because they
also have a short life expectancy.
well, yeah, but also it's because of the farms they're working at and stuff that help grow the avocados and almonds in California. They would ship bees from over the country to bring to these places to help pollinate these places, and then I think they die because they have like no hive or home basically. So I think they will just naturally die because of things like that. But I think they just get overworked. I'm not really sure. I gotta look more into that at some point. I want to talk about bees and insects some point on the show.
That'd be hype.
I think a lot of those deaths are probably attributed to chemicals. Because, I mean, not that my credentials matter, because I have none in this regard, but my mother is really into, like, planting and whatnot. She's a landscape designer. She knows quite a bit about this stuff. And typically that happens from the overusage of chemicals and sprays on the plants.
That's what I think is killing the bees too. But yeah, there's a lot of like animals out there that get harmed for literally like no reason half the time. Like, and they could do it in a safe way, but for them, it's like it's easier just to do that. And it's like, well,
hey man, pollination, dude.
Yeah, but there's like other animals that do pollination, but not as good as bees. Like if all the bees die in the world, like,
well, almost every animal does it that uses the flowers and whatnot. If they go from flower to flower, that's pollination.
Yeah, but if all the bees die in the world, like I think like 60% of all plants on Earth would stop growing.
It's also crazy to look at that because like if you look at like one animal going extinct, it like completely changes like like so much for like the ecosystem. It's like crazy to think about.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact percentage, but I know there's a percentage of like if the bees die, how much the plants would. Like 60 could be like I could pull out of the air right now, but
I mean, I'm curious. The reason I shook my head at that, I'm sure if it is valid, I will not argue with it. But there's a ton of pollinators, and bees are certainly one of the most prevalent ones. But I'd be really surprised if that were to be the case.
well, that's the issue with like the killer bees all over like the East Coast right now because they came over from Asia and now they're like killing. They're still here. They're killing a lot of honeybees, but funny enough, the bees actually have learned how to kill the killer bees.
To fight back.
They have, and how they do it is they like swarm the killer bee and they flap their wings super fast to the point where it overheats them inside of like the ball that all of them around them, and it basically like has a heat stroke underneath all the bees.
Crazy, actually.
So
is it mostly like a dominant breed coming in and that causing this?
It's an invasive species.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, like the invasive carps that we have. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah.
Like all those carps coming in and messing up the river ecosystems.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a similar.
It's the same thing with the bees now because they're not pollinators. The killer bees they're just like
they're just there. Yeah.
They're like that big.
Yeah.
Quinn, they're like that big.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
they're huge.
You kind of just won.
They won what? The basketball thing?
Yeah, they won March Madness.
Nice.
Holy crap, dude!
I know.
Man, good on them, huh?
Yeah. So do you guys want to learn about the theories and stuff like that now?
Could be the move.
Yeah, man. Let's hear 'em.
Could be the move. So one thing, we'll go into one thing too. Some more fun facts. Werner von Braun was a Nazi scientist that actually helped NASA form the rockets that helped send us to the moon.
So he was a bad guy.
That the United States knew was a Nazi, but brought him to the country to help them learn how to make rockets for moon missions.
Hey, man, that's the beauty of outsourcing your workers, huh?
But he was a well-known Nazi, and they say he converted from his ideologies to like basically being civilized. But
well, you could always argue Nazism is obviously terrible, but like you can't argue with the fact that there were obviously smart people to come out of that group. There's smart people to come out of every
but this
group.
guy like was a known scientist that killed like hundreds of people.
Doesn't mean he wasn't
himself.
smart though. You know what
No,
I mean?
I'm not saying he wasn't smart. Like, of course he was smart, but like that's
crazy
why they have
smart.
him doing rockets. But his social skills weren't there, clearly. But basically, he helped build like rockets for the Apollo missions and stuff like that, which I find like crazy that the United States would even allow someone like that into.
It's kind of weird to think about because it's like I know some people think everyone can be like rehabilitated no matter how bad you are, but you kind of also have to think
This guy killed like thousands of people.
Like, there has to be like repercussions for what you've done before you can be rehabilitated. You can't just like
and he wasn't convicted. He wasn't tried. He was just like, well,
just let off the like.
Maybe they were like, if you don't help us with this project, then we'll convict you.
No,
Maybe that was his
it
way to
wasn't.
get
It
off
wasn't like
scot-free.
that. It was just kind of like, we need your knowledge, and we need you to do this, and we need you for that, and they're gonna be like, we'll drop the charges, basically, and it's like,
Yeah, that's what I.
oh yeah, it's what you
said.
just said.
That's
Yeah,
what I
I'm not
just
even
said.
thinking, but which I find insane. It's just like you can't just
what
like
time period was this?
it's 1960s,
It's still like somewhat like
1960s, like late 60s,
Yeah.
early 70s,
Like
basically.
15 years after.
But yeah, but like basically like he's still like, I don't know. I can't remember exactly when. I think it was in the 60s though, but he basically did so much stuff like that. It's crazy. But going into the theories now. Okay. So how do you think Hitler died? Like what have you heard?
I have no clue, honestly. Like I have no clue.
All I'm aware of, based off of what I know and what I've read, is that the Soviets found his body, and the United States and every other country really has no clue.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. So basically, imagine this: you're in Berlin, right?
Berlin.
Capital of Germany. You got the Soviets coming on the right side and America and Europe coming on the left side. What happened was Hitler realized that he's going to get captured.
Yeah.
So what the story was that he locked him in his bunker and he killed him and his wife he just married the day before.
Yep.
What a good man.
In the bunker. And then basically his officers that were still there burnt the bunker, like burnt him and his wife in the bunker to like destroy like whatever. That was the story, and that's basically kind of the end of Hitler. What I think really happened, and like what a lot of people think happened, was there was a tunnel in his bunker that led to an outside exit for him to escape. I think he fled, and the reason was Russia or the Soviet Union required his body. They said 30 years after the fact, they released the skull that they claimed was Hitler for like years. Turned out to be a female's skull. And
Really?
yeah, it turned out to be a female skeleton. And they were saying this was Hitler for decades. And
The USSR.
yeah. I think after, yeah, so they finally released the body for like people to look at, and the show Finding Hitler wanted to find out whose skull it was. So they went to Hitler's wife's family, Eva Braun, which was her name. They tracked down the family, found them. They were impossible to find. Basically, they were hiding out somewhere where they couldn't be found. They didn't want to be bothered by people and all that stuff. And finally they found them, and they asked the family for a DNA result or DNA to test the skull. And the family refused. They were like, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not giving my DNA.
It's kind of understandable in a sense,
Yeah.
though. Like, you just want to get on with your life.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Also, like, there's definitely people that just want to know the truth.
Yeah.
So,
And they don't care. They were like, she's gone. He's gone. Leave it like that.
yeah.
And a lot of people thought, because the reason they were denying, because they were supporters of him and everything, of Hitler. So that's why they didn't want to give the DNA, because I think they knew that was her. They didn't want to give it away. So what I think happened was he killed his wife in the bunker, and he fled. He left her body so that
They would find it.
they would find it and say that was him. He fled to South America. And there's a lot of stories of people in South America that said they saw a boat dock on shore with this guy with a tiny mustache walking on the beach and basically moving into a colony in South America, a Colonio Dignidad, and kind of living his life there. The reason also why people have thought this theory was more concrete too, because the skull 100% was a fact. The skull was a female skull. The skeleton was a female. Another fact was the CIA, after like 30 years, released more documents after World War II about kind of like the spending they had and all that stuff. And they found out that millions and millions of dollars were spent in the CIA to find Hitler.
Wow.
So was he ever found?
No, not his body. Well, the Soviets said they found his body, but in reality they didn't. So they had no body, no evidence where he went. Kind of like he just vanished, basically.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
So basically, so what they think happened was the United States knew that the Soviets had his wife's body, and they knew that he was still out there, and they spent millions to try to find this guy and get him. But they wouldn't tell the public, though, because the reason they didn't want to tell the public, too, was because the other reason why they wanted to tell the public, too, was because in this time, they didn't want to like worry about Nazis anymore. That's why they didn't arrest many Nazis anymore. And they kind of like moved past a bunch of stuff and like kind of brought them to the United States to help them with science, or they let them flee to South America and Egypt. The reason was because they wanted to move past the Nazis and past fascism because it was gone, basically, even though it wasn't. And they wanted to focus on the next problem. You guess what the next problem was for the United States?
Well, I mean, the only war I could think of after World War II was the Korean War.
No,
The 50s.
it was the Cold War.
Oh, well, yeah.
But the Cold War. But like the next problem was communism. The United States wanted to fight communism next. They got rid of fascism. The next battle was communism.
Yeah.
Cold War, Korean War, Vietnam War, and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And that's why they kind of like let the Nazis go a little bit, even though they were still around and still doing bad things. They kind of like put them on the back burner. So they're like, we did what we could. So in reality, they're like, we got rid of them all. Basically told the public they're all gone. We did everything. In reality, they weren't, and they knew that. And in secret, they had the CIA in secret, not telling the public that to go find this guy, gave him $1 million to find Hitler and to find fascist leaders or Nazi leaders and get rid of them. And basically hid it from the public so that that they can get the public to start focusing on the next problem, which was communism, get support for that.
Well, I mean, during the entirety of World War II, the Bolshevik uprisings happened before that, and then like the whole thing with like Lenin and him getting assassinated, like that was like all in the span of like World War II.
Yeah,
just happening in the background in the middle of Russia.
Yeah.
But then while we were dealing with that B crap with the fascists, that was just kind of like festering in the background essentially.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, so basically they think that he fled to South America and hid out. So yeah, what do you think?
I mean, I just never knew any of that. Like, I just thought like it's kind of weird to think that he could have survived years after like what they thought.
Yeah, he could literally have descendants right now, and we have no clue.
That's crazy.
No, can I ask how old he would be?
Now?
I just looked it up. He'd be like 130.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's gone.
Long gone.
I would assume, in my honest opinion, he escaped because a tunnel led to Finland, or led towards Finland. So he escaped, probably went to Finland, took a boat to South America, and headed out until like he probably died when he was in like his 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
So he probably died around like.
So how many years after is that than when they thought they had him?
So I think that was probably like 30 or 40 years after the fact. I think he probably passed.
Wild.
I think he passed away after that, and I think like Colonia Dignidad and all these Nazi colonies all over South America knew he was there, but hid it as like the most guarded secret ever, and kind of like probably buried him somewhere where no one would find him. So, in my opinion,
that's a crazy theory.
In my opinion, he lived and died in South America after World War II.
Hey, we'll never know, man.
Yeah. But there's like plenty of evidence to prove that he lived after the fact. It kind of goes cold after kind of like where he would have gone. Like, I think all the evidence goes all the way to South America, and after that, it kind of like gets lost because you're dealing with like multiple different countries over a giant continent. He could literally have been in any country. He could have been in Chile, Argentina, Peru, Bolivia, Brazil. Like, who knows? And the hard part was, like, that's probably why as well the CIA couldn't find him, too, because imagine this close-knit community of, like, Nazis that you really can't mess with, because if you mess with them, you're kind of, like...
Against them.
Yeah, you're already against them, but, like, if you mess with them, it's like you're already taking away from the power, from the fight of communism, and, like, taking a light show from them and kind of bringing a light to the fact you're doing this secret operation.
So how long was it before they realized, or, like, how long did it take them to realize that it actually wasn't him when they found the
I
skull?
think they knew from the start.
They just wanted to, like, act like it was just done.
I think they knew from the start, and that's why they're spending millions with the CIA. I think that the Soviets knew too from the start, but also just kind of want to move past it and fight democracy too. You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing of like they realize that they have to fight each other now and like just kind of move past all that stuff. I think like the funding for that stuff kind of probably started in like the 50s and like to the 70s, because that's kind of like where I think the 70s was more when they started finding a lot of the high-ranking officers and stuff. So I think a lot of the, because after that, because the Cold War was kind of not, it was like 30 years, and then finally I think the Cold War's kind of getting to a point where it's kind of where it is, so they kind of ramped up their programs to find the remaining Nazis, and that's why they found like Joseph and Hans of in South America and the people in Egypt and stuff, because that's kind of like in the 60s and 70s, that's kind of when they started finding them and stuff. So yeah,
I see.
kind of crazy, right?
It is crazy.
It all ties together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's interesting because it's like it's history that is actually happened but will not be taught in schools.
Well, I mean, maybe if it is set in stone, it is starting to become a little more easily accessible to the academic crowd as more and newer textbooks and editions of those textbooks come out, then it will be taught. But you have to understand, like in education systems, a lot of them, even the ones that we came from, they were teaching information from textbooks that are like, you know, from the 2000s. Like if you look at the textbooks from my high school, it was old information or old interpretations.
Well, the
of
thing too
information.
about it is like those textbooks were made by historians that knew these stories as well. So it's a thing of like trying to like hide history from the eyes, or not trying to write history the way they wanted to see it, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And that's the whole discussion.
Because
like censorship.
Yeah. Because they teach people that Gandhi was a great guy. In reality, Gandhi was not a great guy at all. Gandhi was a pedophile.
Right.
Yeah. Not even a joke.
Hey man, the cultural Indian for you.
Yeah.
In the early 1900s.
He did great things, but he also was a terrible person too. So it's like, you know, a lot of people in history, they change their story, whatever is the most easiest for the public to deal with. But in reality, kind of the truth is more important in my eyes, and instead of like kind of like hiding or protecting people's feelings or opinions.
Of course.
So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're finding the truth. So yeah. Anyways, we're all out of time, basically. Thank you, Matt and Ivor, for being here. Even though you're gone.
Yeah, they gone. You can
rest
kind
in
of
peace.
clutched up if you think about it.
Thank you, Cole and Quinn, for coming in. Bree, I'm assuming Bree's not making it.
Probably not.
I mean, I'd say we had a good talk tonight. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Overall, a lot of people came on. A lot of different people came on, but a lot of different voices, a lot of different opinions. But overall, kept to the story, which is all that matters to me.
That we did.
We did. And we talked about some interesting things as well.
We did.
All right, Quinn. Are we on YouTube, Quinn?
We are.
What's
Lounging Around podcast on YouTube.
There
Come on
you go.
now.
What about on Instagram? What's our Instagram?
Gonna have to guess it's the same thing.
Yeah, with periods in between all of it.
Periods in between.
So you want to say it now?
Lounging.around.podcast.
There you go.
Cole.
No, there's no .col on there. Thank you, Quinn, for the promotion.
Got you.
Quinn, what do you want to talk about in the future if you came back on?
Be down to talk about art.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like progression of art and like
I'm
different styles
down.
of art. I think
I'm
that'd be
down.
pretty cool.
Yeah. No, we can plan that out.
That'd be awesome.
What about you?
I mean,
Hit a quick
you already
lift.
know what I'd want to talk about. On here.
I'm not talking about weightlifting stuff.
Cole wants to hit a quick
I mean,
lift.
I know you're a history guy. I could get into talk about music history. Does that interest you at all?
Yeah, that interests me more than the lift stuff.
I could get into that really deep.
What'd you say?
Music, like music history.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have music and art.
Like Lil Keith.
Just probably put it in one night, really.
Yeah, that should be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. We'll be back Wednesday. What time will we be back Wednesday, and Quinn?
I'd say right around 10 p.m.
There you go. This episode will be posted on Friday if you're listening to this. But if you're listening to this, if you're listening to YouTube, it's Friday. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thanks to the YouTube subs.
Yeah. Please subscribe and follow us on Instagram, and subscribe if you watch this and you love my voice and you love Quinn.
Yeah.
Dude, everybody loves Quinn. Am I right?
Look at him.
Come on now.
We'll be back Wednesday to talk about Reddit threads. We're going to be reading Reddit threads about these posts.
Okay, that'd be kind of interesting.
Oh my god, dude, you should do some reactions of Reddit 50/50.
I think that's what we're doing.
So I'm guessing this is Kiskin's idea.
No, this was Breeze.
Really? I
Yeah.
know Kiskin's big on that Reddit.
Yeah, so basically we're going to be reading threads that basically say, am I a a-hole? And basically it's like Reddit threads about people writing the most terrible things they've done. And then basically asking people, am I a bad guy? And we're going to read it and then respond. Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. It's going to be fun.
Good.
But thank you for listening. Have a sweet night.
Peace out, boys.
Peace out.
Right there, mate. You're listening to the Lounge Around podcast. Stick around for more.